Hey, welcome everybody. This is Hakeem Alexander coming to you from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And right now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the child-free option, what that means to me. And it's not something that a lot of people think about being child-free. It's something that's often, it's not really talked about that much. I think, in my opinion, and that's what this really is, and my experience, is that a lot of people actually don't actively think about whether or not they're going to be child-free or not. I know a lot of people, as a matter of fact, that didn't plan to be parents. In fact, most of the people that I know have not planned to be parents. So I'm really just going to, talk about why I've made a decision to be child-free and some of the benefits. I personally think that there are benefits that I experienced from this. So a lot of people may disagree. A lot of people have kids, so, and that's, of course, their choice. I love my soundtrack. It's one of my songs that I recorded with my friend Donald Dias. That's also another one of the benefits that I found of being child-free. See, it's actually different for everybody. So, because there are a lot of people who are very successful in their own right, maybe even rich, famous, traveling the world, who have children, but it's not for everybody, and that's really what I'm talking about here. So, it's a lifestyle choice that a lot of people make, and a lot of people have, and it's okay to make that choice. A lot of people really don't, like I said, actively think about that. A lot of people don't actually actively think about not having children or even having children. So like I started out saying, a lot of people actually, that I know, and I'm just saying a lot of people in a general term, haven't actually really thought out well enough whether or not they're going to have kids. And, it's difficult for me to even have like a kitten or a cat. Let's say a full-grown cat. There's a lot of responsibility that goes with that. And a lot of people are more than willing to take on that responsibility. And, many blessings and respect to you. Matter of fact, I know people, as you do know, who have not only pets, but also children, or they have children and pets. Sometimes 2 or 3 kids and 2 or 3 pets and big families, and more power to you. But really, what I want to talk about is, that I've made a decision to remain child-free. And there's a lot of things that I personally experience as benefits because of this. So if you're a person who maybe is thinking about whether you should remain child-free or not, or you're thinking about having a kid, I'll tell you right now that I'm biased towards not having any children. And I'm I'll be 39 next month in September. Today is, it's August. Oh, actually, September 1st. See, look at that. September 1st. They have the benefit of not having to keep track of dates and things like that, like my My brothers and sisters, all of them right now, have to get their kids ready for school, which is going to be starting next week on Tuesday, at least here in Virginia Beach, where I'm taking my little vacation to visit for a little while. I just got back from China, where I was for 4 months, where I was teaching yoga and English and living there. And I'll be going back soon, or traveling somewhere else to work. And that is something that I have the freedom to do. I don't have to be concerned about taking care of children and pulling them around the world and being concerned about, their well-being and welfare. And it's interesting because I can still go and do the things that I was able to do when I was in high school and when I graduated from high school. As a matter of fact, I still actively play music all the time and record music in my own kind of underground record label and studios wherever I am in the world or in the country. I still practice martial arts actively and whenever I want to, and I write a lot. I have 9 websites that I publish things on. And I'm not saying that you can't do this if you have children, because people do. They find the time. They make the time. But I just realized a long time ago that I just don't have the temperament for that. And that's one of the main points is you have to really think about where you are in that equation. Because some people have told me, they said, Hakeem, if you have kids, you'll become a good father, or I could see you being a good father. And I disagree. I totally disagree. I don't want kids. That's one of the main things. I don't want children. And, if, and this is a very big if, and we're talking about the past now because I'm very careful about, I actively avoid having children. Even having sexual relationships, I actively avoid having children, and everybody knows that I'm not interested in having children that would even get close enough to me to even ask me that question. And now, I'm making this, it's the first time I'm actually talking about this on a podcast. So now it's, I'm putting it out there. But people would say, oh, well, when you have a child, you'll totally change. No, I won't. And I don't agree that happens to people, because I know a lot of people personally who have had children unexpectedly, and they're not very good parents. And when I say that, it's because they're constantly doing things like throwing toys and video games and everything that they possibly can do to keep the children away from them. Or when they're out in public with them, they're frustrated. You can just see and tell that they don't want these children. And I know that's a sad thing to say, but it's a true observation of mine. A lot of people just don't want their kids, and they're really just doing it out of obligation because they have the kids. And they're kind of thinking, well, here I am, I got to do this. But they're not doing it wholeheartedly. On the other hand, I've seen people who have children who raise their children quite well, who pay lots of attention to them, who are very loving. Their children are well adjusted and educated. They're well-tempered, respectful, highly functioning children, just like little people. And then on the other hand, I've seen kids who are just out of control. And it doesn't have to be that way, because I wasn't that way when I was growing up. I wasn't this out of control, running around, screaming, throwing stuff all over the place, temper tantrum child. My mother raised me quite well. Or maybe it was just my temperament personally. I just decided, I do know that out of 6 of us, yes, I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, 6 of us all together, I was the loner and the more quiet one who spent a lot of time by myself. And so, again, if this is, an option that you're pondering, you got to think about what your temperament is. I like to spend a lot of time alone. I like to sleep a lot. I like to have my own freedom. I like to be able to get up and, as I've done many times before, and just drop everything, throw my stuff into storage, or donate, sell, give away all of my stuff, and then just take a road trip. Or like I was just in China for 4 months, and then I was in Russia, and I went to Taiwan, and to be able to do that, there's a couple things that need to happen. You either need to have a vast amount of resources if you're going to have children, especially, or no children, and you can minimize how many resources that you have. You know, one of the ways that I support myself is I have, I sell products online through my website. And so, like health related products and other things that I'm personally interested in, I just share that with people. And I like having that freedom. So you got to think about, is that who you are? Are you that kind of person that needs to have that kind of freedom? Or are you someone who really, really wants to have children? There's this organization called Planned Parenthood, and I never really looked into it that much, but it has a cool name. I think that parenthood should be planned. I really don't agree that it should be something that's spontaneous, but you may or may not agree with me on that. So, maybe you can give me some comments on that. My email is hakeem@hypnoathletics.com. That's HAKEEM at HYPNOATHLETICS.com. So that's Hakeem@hypno, like the word hypnosis, athletics, just how it sounds.com. Let me collect my thoughts for a second, and I'll get right back to you guys in a moment. I'm going to steer this in a more focused direction here in a second. So let me take a quick break, and I'll get back here in just a minute. All right, everybody. This is Hakeem Alexander. You're listening to my monologue about the child-free option. Is it for you? And it definitely is for me. There's my personal opinions and experiences on this matter. Okay, so I mentioned earlier before that I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and they all have kids. My older brother has 3 kids. He's 4 years older than me. My older sister, she's a year and 4 months older than me. She has 3 kids. My brother, who's 3 years younger than me, he has 3 kids. My brother, who's 6 years younger than me, he has 1. And then my youngest sister, who's about 13 years younger than me, she has 2. And so I have a dozen nieces and nephews, all of which, except for my older brother's children, I've seen. Now that I'm in Virginia Beach, they've all been here. I've seen them. The ages range from 4 to 19 years old, and it has been insane. I mean, it's highly disturbing to me, which it could be to some other people. I love kids, and it's so amazing how they just love me. And I've worked with kids a lot. Ever since I was in high school, my older sister, she volunteered for a program called Kids in Distress, where it was a program for abused and neglected children, and I volunteered for that. Shortly after that, I went to another organization that had a similar acronym. Kids in Distress was KID, and then I went to another program called Kids in Dade Society, KIDS. Dade is Dade County, Florida, where Miami is located, as opposed to Broward County, where Fort Lauderdale is located, where I lived before. And I taught capoeira, an African Brazilian martial art, to a delinquency prevention program for children all the way from elementary school through high school. And then when I went to California, Los Angeles, California, I worked for a program called Hollywood Education and Literacy Project, where it was not only children but adults, and I was helping them to read and learn basic arithmetic skills and things like that. And I taught kids karate at Meridian's Bodies in Motion. Bodies in Motion was a fitness facility that I worked at. So I love working with children, but just not taking them home and having them as my own. There's only so much. And a lot of people may be like that. And a lot of people, I think, mistake the the rapport and the great relations that they have with children for thinking that they need to have children of their own. I mean, I have a friend who every time she sees kids, she's, this and that. And puppies, the same thing. Oh my God, they're so cute. But it's completely irresponsible for even herself to even think about trying to take care of children. A lot of people don't really take into consideration how much of a huge responsibility having a child is. And again, I mentioned earlier before, I know people who've had children and who have children, who have children, who it is, you can see it in their even out publicly where they're trying to keep it as civil as possible. They're yelling at the kids, and the kids are running around screaming. And I just think the things about kids who run around and act crazy like that is just a symptom of bad parenting. And people can argue with me all they want. You don't have kids, and so you don't know how it is. Okay. Well, once I was living with a guy, I'm not going to say who it is, of course, and he had a 13-year-old daughter, and I was crashing on the couch there. We were renting the apartment, but it had 2 bedrooms, so, his daughter, she had a bedroom, he had the bedroom, and I slept on the couch, even though we were both paying rent. Anyway, one morning, I woke up to him calling his daughter a fucking moron, and I've heard him saying that over and over again to her. But this one day in particular just woke me up out of my sleep. And I casually mentioned in a calm tone, I said, maybe you shouldn't call her a fucking moron. And she might, respond a little bit better. And then he started going off of me. You don't have kids. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Until you have kids, you don't know what it's like. Okay. So one of the arguments for people saying that I have no valid opinion about having children is that I don't have any. But first of all, it's just common sense. Children are people. And there's no reason to abuse them verbally, emotionally, physically, or in any other way, just like you would any person. There's no reason for that. So you have a child, you just be a human being. Be a decent human being. That's how you raise a child. And you educate them. And the reason I think having children on this earth is to produce people that are going to do great things in this world. You can... if I talk in terms of sort of like more financial or business, if you want to say, or commercial, it's the same thing. People in this world are either liabilities or they are assets to the world and society. And I think it's our responsibility when we're in the charge of children, where children are our responsibility, that we help them to understand what it's like to be an asset to society and to the world. To be good citizens, to just be people who care about the world and other people. And that's in my capacity as an uncle, as a teacher of children. As a matter of fact, I was in China teaching high school students and was around, it was a private school. And so there were kids all the way from primary school all the way through high school. And my responsibility as somebody who is leading this younger generation of people is to teach them how to be responsible world citizens. And a lot of parents, unfortunately, are not doing that. And I think that one of the main reasons, which is going back to why the child-free option is for me, is because I know that I would not, as a parent, at least not at this stage in my life so far, be someone who can help produce assets to society rather than liabilities. And yeah, there's so many other political things in the political infrastructure and things like structural violence, like poverty, and the fact that we live in a market-based economy, and so many other things that are going on that certain groups of people may not have it the same as others. But all in all, you have to plan to be a parent. You have to know what you're getting into. For example, if I was going to become a parent, I know that it would be my responsibility to help produce a productive global citizen, someone who's going to be an asset to this world and not some jerk who's running around growing up to be a serial killer, to be extreme in the example. So let me get back to, I think that we have to actively contemplate this decision. I know people who, I've had women who I've had sexual relationships with who were just like, I want to have a baby with you. I want, and just completely saying things completely irresponsible. Just, they just wanted me to let go and just kind of make that decision lightly just because they were in the heat of the moment and they think that they want kids. I'm just like, some people have some wacky, loony reasons for wanting to have a kid. That's something you plan. You're not with somebody for a couple months or for however long a relationship with it and just all of a sudden just be like, while we're making love or having sex, to say, okay, look, it's time for you to go raw and give me some babies right now. Crazy? That's not a decision. Who makes that decision at that moment like that? Like, is that? It totally blows my mind, and I think that's somehow. It seems like the way people make decisions. I've spoken to people who have kids, and we're just like, oh well, I didn't want to have kids, but that it just happened. No, that doesn't just happen. I'm 38 years old, going to be 39 years old in 16 days. And that's never just happened to me. There are all kinds of things that you can do and people will disagree with it. That there's birth control. There's making sure that your partner is using birth control as well. And you take responsibility for that yourself. You don't just automatically assume that the other person is going to be responsible for that. You both have to make that decision. You have to make sure that the other person is on birth control. Wearing condoms for the guy is an absolute must if you don't want to have children. Then there's other options if you're not afraid of your STDs and you're not wearing condom. There's coitus interruptus, the whole pulling out. If it wasn't meant to be, discussing abortion, and I know that a lot of people who are pro-life will be totally against that, but you don't have to have kids if you don't want to. Someone cannot force you to have children. And I don't know, man. There's a lot of situations and circumstances that I don't know about that I'm sure that, and I'm not even talking about things like someone being raped and deciding to keep the baby for whatever reasons. I'm just there's a lot of things that we need to take into consideration. I'm talking about most usual circumstances and people under most usual conditions. Like the word normal, it doesn't mean that's good or bad. It just means statistically most frequent. So under the statistically most frequent conditions, we have the right and the mindset we can really think about, contemplate whether or not we want to have kids. And the benefits. I'll just talk about that real quick. Sleep. Man, over at my sister's house in Virginia Beach, these kids, they're on summer vacation too, just like I am. And man, the things that they do when I've been attempting to get some rest. I'm talking about early in the morning, just because they get up and they just have no consideration for anybody else. And then there's the mess. So sleep is one, getting rest is one. The fact that you don't have to clean up after other people, whether it's their diapers or the crazy aftermath that they leave behind, looks like a storm came by. The freedom of travel without having any extra baggage to take with you. As far as dating and relationships, it clears up a lot of stuff. There's a lot of complications that aren't there if you don't have kids, especially if you're like me, I'm not married yet. There's a lot of options. You don't have children that are coming into the situation. And yeah, look, people say, oh, well, that's so selfish. Well, yes, I'm thinking about me. That's why I don't have kids, because I don't want to think about them. And again, I get to, if I want to party, if I want to stay out all night, if I don't want to come home for days at a time, I'm not being held responsible for anybody else. If that's the decision that I want to make. So there's just a few benefits. It's really having a lot to do with the responsibility for yourself and not having to take responsibility for other people, and not pushing off that responsibility on other people. Again, some examples I know of a lot of other people who are trying to act like me, where I can go and date who I want to, and stay out all night if I feel like it, or travel to a different country if I feel like it, or sleep in all day because I feel like it, because I don't feel like running my business that day, or whatever it is. I see other people who have 1 to 4 kids who are attempting to do like that, and it's completely irresponsible and unfair to the child. And the reason why I perceive that they're doing that is because they really weren't prepared. They didn't plan to be parents. And a lot of them have said just as much. They did not plan to be parents. And therefore, because they didn't plan to be parents, it kind of hit them. They weren't ready for it. And they're still trying to live their old life, and that just can't be done. So, anyway, I don't know if those were too clear, right, on what those benefits that I experience are, but those are benefits to me. I can do whatever I want to and think about my own personal development. And at the stage that I am now, I believe that I could have children and raise them a lot better than a lot of parents that I've seen. I've seen a lot of really great examples of parenting. And I've seen a whole lot more examples of terrible parenting. And I think that the reason why people are terrible parents is because they really want to be like me or similar to me, other people who have the freedom to just kind of do whatever we want, sleep when we want, run our own businesses when we want, travel the world or the country or whatever on our own time. There's so many hobbies and activities that I do that I know a lot of other people have quit because they have to have these family responsibilities. So maybe again, you can send me an email if you like. It's hakeem@hypnoathletics.com. I will put that in the link to this podcast. It's on gurugrandmaster.com. I'm also putting it on, it's going to be posted on hypnoathletics.net. Gurugrandmaster.com would be easier for some of you to remember. So I got that name. And if you have any questions or if you'd like to just connect with me, you can do that. There's also a group on Facebook called Child Free Joy and Support, I believe it is, created by Ashley Needles. You can check that out on Facebook. I also have my own page. It's Hypno Athletics on Facebook. You can check out. But that's it for now. I mean, maybe I'll address this. Actually, I will address this at some other time. We can call this sort of a pilot, my little freestyle candid, talking about the child-free option. And there'll be more. There'll definitely be more because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot also because of the fact that I'm wondering, do I want to have kids or not? But so far, it's definitely not the choice for me. So anyway, this is Hakeem Alexander, hypnoathletics.info and the hypnoathleticsnetworks.com.net.org. You can find this on gurugrandmaster.com as well as some of the other podcasts that I do, 613 Records, where I put my underground music, and then also a new one I just started called Gaming Declassified, because I like shooting stuff on this cool game called Kill Shot Bravo. You can also check out some of the stuff I put on there. And that's on swordpaper.com, but enough of that for now. I'll do an outro with some music. That's again, all 3 of the songs you've heard in this podcast so far were recorded live by myself and my friend Donald Dias. All improvised live. I was playing drums and doing vocals, and he was playing guitar and bass, sometimes at the same time. And I'll catch you guys on the next wave. The child-free option, is it for you? All right. See you on the next wave. Take care.